The 402 Tip-Off.
Clayton, Collier, Mason, Kern here with you. Mason, it has been a fun run for Nebraska men's basketball, and it continues.
Not over yet.
But the nation's longest win streak, unfortunately, comes to a close, 75-72 against Michigan. But, Mason, it took a top three opponent on the road. The refs only giving
list time.
Yeah, giving you 4 free throw attempts in the game. You don't have Rink Mast. You don't have Braden Frager. And
likely a mischarge.
And somehow you're still right. Well, and yeah, the Sam Hoiberg call as well. And somehow you were leading for 36 minutes and 18 seconds of that game. We were talking about it before. Just a barely a lead from Michigan in the opening minutes. What was it, 3-2?
3-2, and then 74-72 were the only times they led, other than the final score, 75-72.
Listen, they keep saying no moral victories and all that, but all that said to me was this team can compete with anybody.
Yeah, and all good things must come to an end. If you're going to take a loss, probably want to do it before March. First of all, if you probably
better than in the tournament.
Yeah, make the tournament. They want to, string together a couple wins. And you learn how to handle adversity through a loss, right? No moral victories. And yet, you're probably pretty confident that you pushed Michigan, a team that many consider to be a national title contender, to the brink without 2 of your top 3 scorers in the game. So, again, you don't want to quantify a loss and let it string together, especially with Illinois coming next, but probably pretty confident coming off that game against Michigan.
Right. You looking at the rotation, it looks more like a game from Creighton the last couple years where they were playing. Jamarcus Lawrence 35 minutes, Price Sanford 39, Sam Hoiberg 39.
Nearly 40 minutes is nuts.
But that was what we saw here in Omaha all the last couple years, whether it was Stephen Ashworth, Ryan Cockburn, and all that. It looked like one of those types of situations, but that was at a necessity, and still you're going down to the wire against the number 3 team in the country.
Right.
But as you mentioned, plenty more high-profile matchups coming up starting Sunday. Nebraska hosting Illinois, 5-9, going at it at Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Certainly does not get easier.
No, not at all. They also have Purdue next week, who is number 12 right now. We'll see where they are by the time that game finally rolls around. But, Mason, the last time that they played Illinois, at Illinois, obviously there was the heroics from Jamarcus Lawrence, the big shot. But if you think back to that, Nebraska was undefeated. They topped Creighton. They had some solid wins, but we were very much in that, is this for real kind of mentality, and maybe starting to try to figure out just how good is this team. That game was really the wake-up call for a lot of people that said, wow, this team is a title contender, Final Four contender.
One of, if not the first true road game, especially in Big Ten play against a very good Illinois team who has a lot of young but also older talent too. It's kind of Illinois' roster is very balanced with some star freshmen. Keaton Wagler just had over 40 points recently for them, but also some international guys and some older guys who also can pace that team. So point being, for Nebraska to go to Illinois, pull out that win, gives them all the confidence in the world to come back to Pinnacle Bank Arena and host the Fighting Illini and get a win in their home confines.
And earlier today, Fred Hoiberg was asked about what they may have learned and if there's anything they can apply from that game. Granted, it was back in December, to where this team is now with the Illini. Here's what he had to say.
They just isolate different guys and they go at you, and they keep running it until you stop it, which most people have not found a way to do. And, we've got the shooting now with Boswell out of the lineup and starting Davis. I thought all their guys, top to bottom, in that game against Washington last night, the biggest thing to me was a 24-4 advantage on second chance points. They got 19 second chance points on us in the first go-around, and that's the battle. You try to force them to take as many contested shots as you can, and try to do everything you can to finish off possessions. But they had a 44% offensive rebound rate the first time we played, and somehow we found a way to win. You're not going to win against Illinois very often if you give them almost half of their possessions back after a miss.
And beyond rebounding battles and everything, what you're worried about right now for Nebraska is who's going to be there for you. How healthy are you? Fred Hoiberg had a couple updates. He said that Rink Mast, that he was in the emergency room ahead of that Michigan game, just really, really sick. Still tried to give it a go.
Super dehydrated, needed to rehydrate, get IVs.
Practiced a bit today. They're seeing how he responds to that. Was non-contact, hoping that he'll be able to go on Sunday. Braden Frager, he was initially given a 2 to 4 week timeline on that ankle. That was 8 days ago. So they're hoping that if he is on the early end of that maybe he can go Sunday. So a couple question marks for Nebraska, but if they can get those two guys back, that is a huge boost, obviously, against a top 10 team at home.
Well, especially when you talk about the rebounding margin, because, Nebraska went small against Michigan, starting Cale Jacobson in place of Rink Mast. Cale Jacobson, though, a lot of heart, man. He came out and won the tip against the 7'3" Mara, I forget his first name, but won the tip, ran a beautiful action to start the game, which Nebraska typically scripts very well, their opening few plays. It seems like a lot of early layups to begin the game for them because they do open those scripts so well. But either way, Cale Jacobson runs a beautiful action, scores the first points of the game. So a lot of heart, but going to be really hard to sustain that, especially winning tips consistently against taller guys, and Illinois already out-rebounded them in the first matchup. So getting Rink back, and Frager's a long, athletic guy. I mean, against Indiana, he had that huge offensive rebound at the end and a putback to essentially win that game. So the rebounding margin is going to be really important.
And on top of that, Rink Mast, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 4 on the offensive glass in the
Crucial.
game at Illinois.
You can't say enough about that.
Can't wait to see it. 3 p.m. tip out in Lincoln. You're going to be out there for us.
That's right.
How'd you pull that? Not short.
Well, I think you got the Creighton UConn assignment, so
okay.
we're kind of flip-flopping.
Yeah, there you go.
Good assignments here.
And speaking of that, Creighton hosting UConn tomorrow night.
Big
7
one.
o'clock tip-off. Big one for a lot of reasons. Creighton is entering a phase here of their schedule where they have a lot of quad one opportunities. As you see, 12-9 on the year. So this is the room for error really disappearing for Creighton. Even though it's 6-4, they're 4th in the Big East right now. But a monster challenge in the Connecticut Huskies. And on top of that, it's also the pink out game, which is one of the most special moments really on the Omaha sports calendar, not just with Creighton basketball. Seeing everybody wearing pink, standing up to cancer, you have the signs to show everybody.
Right.
I know this is your first go-around experiencing that on the men's side just last week or a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Also against UConn. You get to see that for the women's game as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's my first exposure, working in Omaha, to seeing that and covering Creighton. The women's game was really a cool moment of silence, and everyone standing up with their signs and who they're kind of standing up for. Very just powerful visually, especially when you're, photog camera, focusing in on some of the facial expressions of everyone. Some are brought to tears, some are in awe, kind of just looking around the arena, because it's a disease that has touched so many and continues to touch so many people, including those on the court, who have personal ties and have been impacted, by the disease as well.
Yeah, Greg McDermott said that every year leading up to and after this game always says hey this is something that affects everybody. And today at practice was another example of that from the players you guys spoke to.
Yeah, a lot of new guys obviously in this program and kind of learning more about them. Josh Dix, his mother's battling cancer right now. Obviously the Iowa transfer from Council Bluffs. He said he's going to have a lot of family at this game. And then Blake Harper, Howard transfer. His mom passed away from breast cancer in 2023. So those two have become very close, through their shared experiences. And then both said the guys have really rallied around them. Here's what both had to say, about their personal ties.
I'll have a lot of family there, so that will definitely mean a lot. But, getting support from everyone. A lot of people go through the same situation, dealing with cancer and stuff like that. They know that that's bigger and more important than basketball right now. So, yeah, they help me all through it. My teammates are super supportive, always asking, how she's doing and stuff.
Me and Josh talk about that stuff a lot because, it's life. That's my guy. I feel for Josh because I feel like I was just in the same predicament. But, I feel like that's my boy, and we so vulnerable with each other. And just in this past year, we became so close that I feel like I can talk to him about anything. He can talk to me about anything. So this is going to be a big game for both of us. I feel it. So, the most is going to be in the air for, tomorrow for sure.
We talk about the impacts that cancer can have on families. And, our guys have experienced it firsthand now, knowing Blake's story and what Josh's mom going through it right now. I think it hits home a little bit more. I think tomorrow will be a little bit more meaningful, probably in our locker room.
And just as I mentioned, an incredibly special event here in Omaha. I remember when I was here as a student with Seton Hall, we came out for the Seton Hall Creighton men's game, and it happened to be the pink out game. And that was my first, introduction to it.
Quite the introduction.
Yeah, I was, a sold out crowd seeing all that. It was a really, powerful memory. And before I took the job here, that was, one of the things I remembered most, just when they were talking about how passionate Nebraska fans are, just throughout the state, football, volleyball,
Right.
everything. But that was a visual that I really remembered and stuck with me. And, seeing it here the last couple of years as well has been very special to see how, this city and the state really wraps their arms around this game as well.
And I'm curious to see, especially with maybe more personal ties for the players, how that resonates, among the fan base, certainly, but even just within the locker room with Max saying, it's going to be probably even more meaningful for this year's group.
Well, and another huge part of it that we haven't mentioned is, that they do the jersey auction every year, and families that have been affected get the opportunity to put a name or a message on
pretty cool.
the players' warm-up jerseys as well. Then they get to meet them after the game. So there's a lot of really powerful stories that come out of that. Last year was, Stephen Ashworth had a family member that, was affected as well. So very special game. And it's also, we were talking about this, it's kind of a strange dichotomy that it's one of the most feel-good games of the year,
Right.
also coming with maybe one of the most divisive opponents that typically Creighton fans have, with UConn coming into town. Dan Hurley is always a guy that even before last year was somebody that this fan base has loved to hate.
Oh, 100%.
And he definitely added fuel to the fire with his exit last year after the win over Creighton here in Omaha. Here's our shot of that. Oh, Dan, the two-time national champion, in case
Letting him know.
you weren't aware. Never afraid to speak his mind, that's for sure. And, it's, as I mentioned, he's just the guy that fans love to hate when it comes to Creighton or, some other fan bases around college basketball as well. In his defense, he also had expressed that he was remorseful of how he acted in that situation since.
Emotionally charged moment.
Yeah, Creighton got him back maybe a little bit, that breakaway dunk at the conference tournament as
Shout
well.
out Jemiah Neal.
Yeah, so all that said, it adds to a nice enjoyable rivalry, and to see fans get up for that. I mean, that's the stuff that you saw in the old Big East,
right,
in terms of just coach-driven personality, just fiery rivalries, all that kind of stuff. It's entertaining to see. I know Dan Hurley is on the more aggressive end of that,
sure.
But as somebody that grew up around Big East basketball, I love to see there be some passion, some storyline, some animation that comes with it. And this league has such incredible coaches right now, and all the storylines between the Patinos, between
right,
Mac, and of course Dan Hurley. The list goes on and on, but it's really cool to see, and I'm excited to see this game tomorrow.
Yeah, seesaw balancing act between vitriol for coach and opponent, and it's actually beautiful. We love everybody, support those who are dealing with cancer. So I'm very curious to see how that goes.
It aligned pretty well last year when you had Dollar Beer Night and Dan Hurley.
There you go. Yeah, another element.
And Red Panda.
Oh,
that was quite a.
I think they're doing Pogo Stick maybe at halftime this year. I think.
Oh, okay.
That's what I maybe heard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
little teaser.
Some halftime entertainment.
Yeah.
But this is, in terms of the actual game, this is going to be an incredible challenge for Creighton. We've talked about how thin the front court is right now. Obviously not having Jackson McAndrew, Owen Freeman being limited, throughout the year. Jason Green's doing his best. The man's 6'9". He's working with a shoulder and a half right now. In Big East basketball, that's not easy. When you're in recent games, the Marquette game, we haven't even talked about that. That was not pretty.
No.
24-point loss.
And they're the first to tell you that. I mean, Blake Harper said today that was a garbage performance. So a lot of talk of effort, inconsistency, and just plainly not really being ready to play for one reason or another, and want to turn the page on that. Not necessarily flush it completely, because Josh Dix said they learned a lot from a loss like that, but you don't want to string multiple performances like that together. It's going to be a really tough challenge, though, with UConn coming to town.
Yeah, I mean, they lead the Big East in scoring margin. They're plus 14 there. Rebounding margin as well. They're plus almost 5. Tied with Seton Hall for most in the conference, with blocks almost 6 a game. So there's a lot there. But the thing that concerns me the most for Creighton is you're coming off a 7 for 34 shooting performance at Marquette. Now you're facing the number 1 3-point defense team here
Yeah.
at home in UConn.
And Max said that it wasn't necessarily getting bad looks. He didn't mind the shots that Creighton was taking against Marquette. It's just they're not hitting them. And so, you don't, hopefully don't want to sustain a cold streak. But I think, at least from Creighton's perspective and Max's perspective, you'll live with the shots you were getting against Marquette. If you can get those against UConn, you'll be happy. You just got to hit some.
And speaking of hitting on Rob Anderson had the stat of the week that I've seen, Creighton's sports information director. They've beaten, if you look in the top ranking, they've beaten everybody except a number 2 before.
All the seeds, all the ranks except 2. So maybe the stars align this year.
And UConn was number 1 for the first time a few years ago. Kansas, then they got it after that. But that said, the high-level opponents, the atmosphere that you get at CHI Health Center does play a factor. So can that carry Creighton to the win here over UConn? Well, that's what we find out tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Clayton will be there.
Can't wait for it. Yeah, you know what? Each of us got a
Exactly.
ranked game, so we split carries pretty well here
go.
for that one. Omaha men's basketball is out in Denver tomorrow. They take on the Pioneers Saturday at 3 p.m. Omaha coming off of the win over South Dakota State. With that, they pulled even in Summit League play. A chance here against a Denver team that's kind of been up and down to pull even at 500 overall on the season, Mason. And we're starting to see the Mavs kind of trend up here as well. Paul Jobe, his second straight double-double. These guys seem like they've started to figure themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, 2-game win streak after you dropped a game to South Dakota that you probably felt like you should have won only by 4 points, is close to the end. They've had some losses this year that were by the skin of their teeth. I think of North Dakota for one, on a last second buzzer beating layup there. But in any case, you've gone without Tony Osborne at times this year with injury, and in this most recent win they have 5 guys scoring double figures, and that's how you play winning basketball. You share the love, not one guy doing everything. You mentioned Paul Jobe. He's really stepped up in the middle part of Summit League play here. And then the ever-consistent Tony Osborne. I mean, he had 15 on 3 threes. So it's a team that's sharing the wealth, and that's how you win games in Summit League.
That it is. Like I said, 3 o'clock tip between Omaha and Denver. We'll see on that one. We transition over to Nebraska women's basketball coming off the big win over Northwestern this week. We'll talk about that. But coming up on Sunday, they have one heck of a challenge. Ohio State at Columbus, as you see, 19-3 on the year. Their 3 losses: number 1 UConn, number 4 UCLA, number 10 Iowa.
It's tough.
That's it. That's a team that knows how to win. They've got plenty of ranked wins as well. But Nebraska's in for a pretty big challenge here.
Oh, most definitely. But on the other side of that, Nebraska's 4 of their 5 losses have also come to ranked teams, including UCLA, a mutual team there in the midst, too.
Flipping the script.
Yeah, they've been competitive, in most of those games. Maybe a little more lopsided against UCLA. Amy Williams was not happy, with their performance in that one. But for the most part, pretty consistently competitive. Now, the one non-ranked loss was to Wisconsin, an unranked team, but it was on the road, and it was when they were already kind of slumping. It was part of a 3-game, mid-season losing streak. They've now snapped that, won 2 in a row, kind of getting back to who they are. And, when Britt Prince is scoring 28 points against Northwestern, that's going to get it done.
And you didn't have Jessica Petrie in that
Right.
game, but, I mean, yeah, Nebraska looked great in this game. Britt Prince going off nonetheless. The really impressive one was the end of the first quarter.
Right.
That half-court buzzer beater that you're seeing right here.
Nothing but net on this, man.
Logan Nisley, the pride of Bismarck, North Dakota.
There we go.
It's my first market. Just to see that. And
She
also,
wasn't hitting rim at all, by the way, all night. It's nothing but net the whole night for
that's
Logan.
true. And it also wasn't even the first half-court shot of the season.
Right.
Jessica Petrie, who was out, they said that was in her honor. She had that 3-quarter court shot. That was against Creighton, I believe.
Yes. I was at that one. I shot that play.
You did.
Yeah,
You did.
It's a pretty good play. Yeah, and it's kind of just ironic. The men's team obviously without Rink Mast, and then the women's team without Jess Petrie. Important front court pieces. Jess has played a huge role in the absence of Alexis Markowski and without Natalie Potts this year, which I know we're going to make a point on.
Yeah, unfortunately, Natalie announcing that she is going to redshirt this season, tore her ACL last year, was hoping to get back mid-season this year, just not quite happening. When they were undefeated in non-conference, we were talking about, hey, can you believe they're doing this and they don't even have Natalie Potts back? Unfortunately, that light at the end of the tunnel isn't going to be there for them, but at least this year. But the Huskers still have an incredibly talented team.
Oh, 100%.
They have a number one cheerleader on their bench now for this year.
She's leading the bench mob.
Yeah.
Her and Allison Widener, who, of course, another knee injury out this year as well. So they've had a couple really tough breaks. I will say, though, for Natalie's case, like not rushing back from an injury, probably good long term. You take a redshirt year, preserve eligibility, and then you come back, stronger next year. I've seen a lot of athletes recover from those ACLs and play even better than where they were before. And for Natalie, that was Big Ten Freshman of the Year in 2024. So if you're playing better than that, it's pretty good.
Creighton, meanwhile, is heading out to Seton Hall. South Orange, New Jersey they go. They play the Seton Hall Pirates 9-3 in conference play. They're tied for second in the Big East. Creighton, obviously 9-12 on the year, 5-7 in conference, trying to get things going. They certainly had an eye-popping game this week against St. John's of a 30-point blowout. When Seton Hall was here in Omaha, Mason, that was
9-point game?
9-point game early on. It looked like it was going to be ugly for a minute there when it was a 7-0 start for Creighton, and then Seton Hall countered with a 20-0 burst. So you need to have an answer there for Valenzuela. She had, I think, 25 points in that win. But nonetheless, great opportunity here for Creighton as they kind of look to try to get right and get back to 500 here in league play.
Yeah, and it's just a season of swings. I mean, you talk about St. John's closer at first and then a 30-point win. That comes after what was a loss at DePaul by 15, a team that only had 4 wins all year when you had blown out DePaul at home earlier in the season. So I don't know if Jim Flannery knows exactly why some of those things happen. It's kind of like question marks. Why do we beat a team and then go on the road and lose? But then you come out and beat St. John's by 30. So very motivated, obviously, from that DePaul loss, and a lot of freshmen growing up. Ava Zedeker, Neely Gessert, Kendall McGee, we've talked about at times this year. Volatility comes with young players, and I think we've seen a lot of that for the Creighton women this year.
Well, we certainly saw plenty from Neely Gessert in that win over St. John's. She had drilled 5 3-pointers at 17 points. Ava Zedeker led the way with 18. Yeah, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had, there were 5 players there that scored in double figures in that game. So really handing it to a St. John's team that looked a lot better earlier in the year, has really struggled come conference play as well. But as we mentioned, they're going out to Seton Hall. Hopefully they get some Tito's burritos while they're there.
Old stomping grounds.
That's the old stomping grounds. You got to get the bird is the word. That's the move.
He's going to take me on a trip there one of these days.
Maybe.
But moving on.
In spirit.
Yeah, right.
Omaha women's basketball is home this weekend. They play Kansas City. They coming off of a lopsided loss to a very talented South Dakota State team. Mason, hopefully the Mavs maybe here against another team in Kansas City that struggled. They've been at home. Maybe they can get that first Summit League win here of the year. But we'll find out Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, 8-game losing streak, at least at this point. Their last win coming, what was that, against an NAIA team back in late December. Again,
Briarcliff.
Yeah, and injury issues. They had that open tryout, welcome some new players, just building in year 1 under Jamie Carey. We hope, though, for their case, they can get a Summit League win here against Kansas City.
1 o'clock tip, also their pink out game as well. Yeah. So excited to see that. That'll do it here for 402 Tip-Off. For Mason Kern, I'm Clayton Collier. Have a good night.